Hello again and welcome to the Shady Gamer channel. This is our first movie review. Now I could pick a movie that is personally special to me, or a popular movie, or a rare movie, or something special to commemorate the occasion of our first movie review, but I shall do no such thing. Instead, I'm going to review a very random movie that I randomly stumbled upon, called Teenage Space Vampires. Yes, you heard me correctly. Teenage Space Vampires. Let that sink in for a moment there. It's not a bad movie, not a good movie, certainly not a good movie. In its own way, it's a bit special, I guess. So we're just gonna hop into it and see how it goes, and I hope you enjoy it. This movie was made at the end of the 90s and the dawn of the millennium, giving it this weird combination of 90s campiness and that wackiness of the 2000 era. The plot of the movie is fairly simple yet random as fuck. The main character, a high school student named Bill, sees a UFO one evening, and after that, the whole town starts acting a bit weird. The next day, Bill goes on his paperboy rounds and he stumbles upon this huge disc-shaped garden ornament that suddenly appeared in someone's backyard. Now, this is obviously the UFO. Like, there's no way to get around it. It's the UFO. Now, are these aliens like so lazy that they won't even bother hiding their UFO? I mean, like, sure, why go through all the trouble to find a secret hiding spot for a UFO where you can just disguise it as an oversized garden gnome, I guess? Like, I don't know. But of course, Bill is going to get to the bottom of this, and he starts snooping around in front of the UFO, or should I say garden ornament. Are these two statues of gargoyles that serve as some kind of security cameras. And when there's movement around, they seem to like sneakily turn their heads, and you see that they are, I don't know, recording whatever's happening around the UFO somehow, which is like a weird choice of design. Like, why would an alien have statues of gargoyles that are security cameras? Like, I guess this was some sort of way to like add to the vampire vibe or something. It just doesn't make any sense why an alien would have gargoyle statues. Like that really, I don't know, what were they thinking with that? Like, it's just so random as fuck, to be honest. Now, good old Bill is determined to get to the bottom of this, but of course nobody in town believes him, because that is a commonly used movie stereotype. But luckily, he has a geeky best friend that will assist him, because, again, commonly used movie stereotype. Out of the blue, this team of UFO scientists show up to study the garden ornament / UFO thing. Promptly, two of them get kidnapped, leaving behind Hank to team up with Bill to solve this mystery. As it turns out, Mr. Danvers, one of Bill's high school teachers and the coach of the soccer team, is in league with the evil alien, and by this point has turned most of the population of the town into some sort of vampire-alien hybrids. The big bad alien, named Lord Vlados, Vladdy for his homies, has one goal in mind: to plunge the Earth in eternal darkness so he can bring over all his vampire alien buddies from space and conquer Earth. How is Lord Vlados going to plunge the Earth in eternal darkness? Well, luckily he has one of these stereotypical evil mastermind moments where he feels the need to explain his entire plan to the protagonist. His plan being using 3 crystals to absorb the light from the sun and the moon. Now, one would assume that an alien with the technology for space travel would have the basic scientific knowledge to know that the moon reflects light and isn't a source of light on its own. But, you know, using your brain during this movie isn't really a good idea, to be honest. Now, I made the mistake of using my brain during this movie, and now I'm stuck with certain questions. Like, why did Lord Vlados use a high school teacher as his right-hand man? Wouldn't it make more sense to use, I don't know, somebody with actual power, like a politician or a high-ranking member of the military? Like, I don't really think these aliens have a steady grasp of the whole world domination thing. And for some reason, the people that get turned into these weird vampires have their head turned into some kind of alien hybrid thingy, yet the rest of their body stays perfectly human. Like, doesn't really make any sense. And also, can't vampires see in the dark? Like, isn't that the point of wanting to plunge the world into darkness? Yet, when you see them walking through dark corridors, for example, they have to use lights and torches to see. It really doesn't make any sense. And now that I think about it, why do they call the movie Teenage Space Vampires? Like, eventually a huge part of the town gets turned into vampires. So you have vampires of all ages, and just a certain percentage of them is a teenager. So, I don't know, did they think it was a cooler sounding title or something? Why couldn't they just stick to space vampires? That actually sounds more badass. Like, maybe it's part of the 90s campiness, I guess. But like I said, it's better to not use your brain when watching this movie. You'll have a much more enjoyable time. Now, back to the plot. They save the day, of course. Bill saves the day. They stop the evil alien. How do they do this? Well, long yet very simple story short, Bill smashes one of the crystals Lord Flados is using to absorb the light, and then he dies from the light that is released from the crystal. Now, I'm not an expert on these things, but I'm pretty sure diamonds are like one of the hardest, toughest materials on the planet, so I don't think they would break when you just throw them on the ground. But, wait, stop. I'm using my brain again. Stop. Don't do that. Okay. They stop the evil Lord Flados, everybody turns back into normal, and all is well in this happy-go-lucky movie. Now, what are my final thoughts on this movie? Well, it's not a cult classic, and I don't think it ever will be a cult classic. It has too little memorable moments for that. The effects are pretty decent for the time, but the acting is just off-putting in my opinion. If they used cardboard cutouts of each character with voiceovers, they would achieve the exact same effect. The characters are pretty one-dimensional, and you don't really give a damn about them. Some of them are actually also a bit annoying, and in most horror movies you would get the pleasure of seeing them die horrible deaths, but alas, this movie has little to no gore. So if you're into gore, you won't find it in this movie, alas. It's pretty family friendly. Well, it depends on what you see as family friendly. Like, there's no blood or people actually dying or blah blah blah, you know. If you like campy horror with some cringy yet hilarious moments, then you'll probably enjoy this movie. I somewhat enjoyed this movie, but you know, I like this kind of shit. But of course, it's not for everyone, but most horror movies are not for everyone. It's a special niche on its own in the horror genre. Don't expect to be scared in any way or form in this movie. You might crack a smile, but it's not that hilarious or funny eventually. It's highly mediocre, but it's just a fun watch. That's the only way I can explain it. Just a fun watch if you're having a boring evening or night and you want to see something different.